Hello everyone and welcome to my deck tech, I guess you could say. Well, I'm going over the deck that I got 36th place with and Daniel Lopez was able to make top 32 with at this past Florida Regional. So what we played was Golisopod with Seismitoad and Laser. Just to give you some background info, before we decided to go to the tournament, we had played in Hartford. I think it was the weekend before. Jeez, yeah, believe Hartford was the weekend before. But we played Golisopod Laurentis. Yeah, I don't know how all of us got on that hype train, but anyways, I know Daniel really likes Golisopod. I've grown to love Golisopod. I think it's a very, very well designed card, and so we played that. We both missed out on cut because of some unfortunate matchups. I know he hit 5 fire decks when he played the deck and lost to all of, or was it? Yeah, it was 5 fire deck. Beat 1, lost to 4. So, yeah, we didn't get any points in Connecticut. Connecticut was kind of like a dry trip for us, somewhat. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it because I got to travel and stuff like that. But anyways, going forward, we were trying to figure out what to play for expanded. Before this weekend, we were kind of not feeling expanded. It was just kind of like, oh, it's just so much and so many different options. So we were throwing ideas around, and so he messaged me and he was like, what about if we play Golisopod with some lasers? And because Golisopod just hits so hard. With Choice Band, you can attach to Golisopod, you can do 150 with First Impression, and then lasers make damage so that you can knock out a lot of EXs and GXs. So we were throwing that idea around, and then I was like, okay. So I told him to build the deck. So he built his version, and we played a couple of games, and it did pretty well for him building the first version. So I was like, okay, send me the list, and then I'll test it. So I was testing it all week, and it was literally beating mostly everything. So without further ado, I'm going to get into the list. So we played one Oranguru. This was a Shaman at first. Now, when it was a Shaman, this change happened literally the night before the tournament. So he was play testing some games in the hotel room, and I had said, and meanwhile, we had did so well with Shaman in the deck, but when we were playing games, there was just situations where Shaman would be on his bench, and I would be like, what if you could instruct right now? Wouldn't that be so much better? And then eventually I told him, I'm not playing Shaman tomorrow, I'm playing Oranguru. And it was amazing in the tournament. It won me so many games. There were so many times that I attacked with it. At least 3 times I attacked with Oranguru to win a game. So because when you're playing this deck, there's a lot of times where you'll have energy in your hand and you don't really want to attach it to anything relevant. And sometimes Oranguru, you want to attach your energy just to thin out your deck, and Oranguru is always a good Pokemon. And then by the end of the game, you're looking at Oranguru like, girl, you could do some work. Let me put you in there. So Oranguru was really, really good. There would also be times where you have those awkward hands where you have Ultra Ball to get Lele to go and use Bridget, but you don't have any follow-up supporters. And sometimes I would just get my hand down to 0 and Bridget and just Oranguru for 3 and draw into something relevant. And if I didn't draw that turn off the first 3, next turn I would play that hand down a little bit more and I would draw it off that 3. So Oranguru was really, really good. 3/3 Golisopod, it's the name of the game. It's kind of what the deck does. One pod is really, really good. It's just an amazing starter. I was fortunate enough not to start against any Wobbuffets. I was kind of scared of that. We played 1 Tapu Koko and 1 Seviper. This was kind of like the spicy card. The reason that we played Seviper is because it allows us to hit 190 on the, what is it called? On the EXs that have 190. So the whole idea is, like, let's say for example your opponent has Turtonator active. You can go Golisopod, Choice Band, Burbank Laser, that does 180 in between turns. Viper will take that 180 and then turn it into 190. And then there were just other times that Viper damage just worked out so well coming back into the turn, just having that 1 extra Viper in there to do that extra damage. It was really, really good. And so Viper allowed us to play with that. Definitely a good card, and it definitely swung a lot of situations. And there would be times where you even forget side, I would be like, oh, Seviper is on the board, when after looking for poison damage, and it just helped out so much. We played 2 Tapu Lele. 2 is all you really need, and 2 is all we really needed. Sometimes I would have liked for a third, but bench space is so tight, and I think the deck runs well enough with 2. Seismitoad 2, definitely. This card was literally the MVP, won me so many games. And to be honest, this deck kind of plays like you use Seismitoad early, and then late game you just finish with Golisopod to weigh them down. And then late game, you come in, you kind of sweep with Golisopod. Seismitoad won me a lot of games on its own in the matchup against Garbodor with, what is it called? Garbodor Necrozma. It was just a really good card all day in that matchup, because you start off, you Quaking Punch, you don't send in your items in the discard, and they kind of have a hard time playing around this card. They have to use Tapu Lele to apply pressure, and that's not really what their deck wants to do. So we played 1 Computer Search, of course, 1 Field Blower. This card was only relevant really in the dark matchup when you need to get rid of those those Fighting Fury belts. 4 Hypnotoxic Laser. We only had 4. At first, Daniel did have a what is it called? Shadow Triad in there, but we convinced him to take it out the night before. Shadow Triad is really cute, but it was more of a win more card, and so that's why we didn't end up playing with the Shadow Triad. 1 Super Rod, very good. Would definitely keep this one in here. There were a lot of times where I needed to use this to keep myself within the game and make sure I didn't run out of resources, being that we only play 5 Grass Energy and a 3/3 Golisopod. Definitely loved that. 4 Ultra Ball, 3 VS Seeker. So this was the one card I was kind of like, I can't believe I'm about to go in this tournament and play 3 VS Seeker. But I will honestly say, there was no time where I felt I wanted a 4th VS Seeker. And I think that says a lot about the way we build decks. That, do we always need 4 Sycamore? Do we always need 4 VS Seeker? Do we always need 4 Ultra? No, I'm just playing. Let's not get crazy. But yeah, this was an interesting cut, but it was one that actually ended up paying off, because you have so many decks that can lock, and in decks that care about items such as the Garbodor deck. So this was really good. I never wanted for another one. Another one might have been nice. If I could make room for it, I probably would. 3 Burbank City Gems. So this was a really good card. A lot of times it stayed on, which is something I noticed a lot about stadiums. If an opposing deck isn't running stadiums, yours usually stick, because they want to use their Field Blower on your items, especially if you're playing 7 tools like we did. So Burbank was really good. Acerola, 1 of it. A lot of people were like, you're only playing 1, you're playing Golisopod, but 1 was all we really needed. And Acerola is a really good card with Seismitoad. So if I remember I was playing a game against what deck is it? The Garbodor deck, and they have to attack with Lele, so they would hit me with Lele, Acerola, put Toad back active, hit them again. They hit me with Lele, VS Seeker, Acerola, hit me with Lele, VS Seeker, Acerola. And that actually ended up winning me that game, because I just took so many turns of damage away from them. So it is a really good card with Toad. And as you can see, the guy who got top 8 with the Toad Viper, he played 3 Acerola, and I saw him playing a game, and Acerola just puts in lots of work with that card. And of course, with Golisopod, of course, how could you not use Acerola? We played 1 Bridget and 1 Fan Club. Seismitoad, and it can't get anything else. So the problem being is that sometimes you need Seismitoad and something else. I might need, let's say I start Wimpod and I want to use Seismitoad on my next turn, but I don't necessarily want to push it active. I could use Fan Club. I can go and get Tapu Koko, Seismitoad, retreat to Tapu Koko, and then have Toad for next turn. There would also be times where I needed to get Seismitoad, but I didn't have any supporters in my hand to continue my play. So sometimes I would Fan Club for a Lele and a Seismitoad, use Lele, Fan Club, Lele, Seismitoad, play down Seismitoad, so next turn I could Lele again and continue my play. Fan Club was just a really good card. And then there were also times where my hand was dead, and then I went and got Lele, and then my opponent was kind of like, okay, well, I know he's going to Lele next turn. Maybe I want to end or something like that. So the flexibility of it is really good. And there are a lot of times where you bridge it and you don't want to get 3. So Fan Club it essentially becomes the same card in those situations, but better because they go to your hand. 1 Chorus, definitely must play in this and expand it. It's just so good. You can draw it anywhere from 10 cards. The ceiling, that's what I'm saying. The ceiling on Colress is high. It's one of those cards that with an extremely high ceiling, and the ceiling is high most of the time. So we definitely played one of that. 2 Guzma, and I think that is something else that differentiates this deck from other decks in the format. A lot of decks play 1 Guzma, but because we're playing Golisopod, we play 2, and it just gives you so many outs towards the end of the game, or more outs towards the end of the game. So I really enjoyed the 2 Guzma in there. Late game Guzma is usually how you win with this deck. 1 Karen for the Night March. And it also came in play in other matchups as well, but you got to have it in there. Karen plus Toad usually equals a game over if you're in the right spot versus Night March. Night March is still a very tough matchup for this deck, but having Karen and Toad makes it winnable. 2 in, 4 Sycamore, 1 Teammates. So the reason that we played Teammates is that this deck is very combo oriented, meaning that I need Laser, I need Golisopod, I need Toad, you know what I'm saying, you to hit to get the win. Lele for Teammates is really good. BS Seeker for Teammates is really good. A lot of decks don't expect you to be playing it, and there were a lot of times where Teammates just won me games because they set up my win condition, and sometimes it was just like I would Lele late game sometimes, and I would be going through my deck for a supporter to draw into the win, and I'd be like, oh yeah, I play Teammates, girl, let me just win this game real quick. So yeah, Teammates is a really, really good card if you can play it. And of course you would think, oh well, your cards aren't getting knocked out that much. True enough. You know, I'm playing an EX deck. Usually you want to play Teammates in a deck where your opponent's taking lots of knockouts against you. But just having that 1 Teammates was really, really good. And at first I was kind of like, okay, maybe I should take it out, but it actually came in handy in a lot of games. So I really enjoyed the Teammates. 4 Choice Band, of course, because you want Toad to have it. Lele having it is big. Orangaroos having it is big. Choice Band is just really, really good. 3 Float Stone. Never won it for a 4th Float Stone. I was pretty good on the 3. And then 4 DCE and 5 Grass. So the deck is pretty simple if you think about it. So I'm going to go over how I did in the tournament and also how Daniel did. I'm going to go over Daniel first. He sent me his everything that he played and how he did. So round 1 versus Turbo Dark, loss, win. So the Turbo Dark matchup with this deck is pretty interesting. Usually you want to start Toad and just lock them and laser them to take some prizes, and then late game the thing that makes it a difficult matchup is because of dead end, because they can just take that automatic knockout. But usually if you can use Toad and stop them from really going off, and then take knockouts on their stuff, surprise knockouts or like knockouts with Golisopod, Choice Band, Laser Bang, you're in a pretty good position. But I still think it's very close. The only thing that makes it pretty close is the dead end GX. So Toad Garb, win. He won twice against that. Sounds pretty easy. Seismitoad, you just Golisopod them, and yeah, what are they gonna do? The Necrozma Garb, I think this was against Ryan Sablehouse, so he took a loss first round, win, and then they ended up tying. So at this point he was 2-0-1. Golisopod Garb, he won both of those. Turtonator lost the first one, so this is fire, won the second, and then lost the third. Night March, he beat that 2-0. Dead End Jarkrai, which was like the turbo Dead End, he beat that 2-0 round 7. And then Archie Stoics, of course, he beat that 2-0 round 8. And then he eventually ID'd in round 9. I think he ID'd with Azul. Alright, so that was his day 1. Day 2, he played Vikaboo Virizion, which is John Roberts. I'm going to be playing his deck later in this week, so that should be fun for you guys to watch. But yeah, he played Vikaboo Virizion, John Roberts. He did a win, a loss, and then a tie. I think John Roberts was going to win the last game, but they ended up tying. Next round, he played Dead End Darkrai again. I told you guys that's a pretty easy one once the Dead End has been used. So he won both of those. Next one he played it versus Night March. He said he didn't get too lucky this game, and so yeah, he wasn't able to really reliably get the Karen, the Toad, and all that good stuff going. So he lost both of those. And then round 13 he played versus Night March. He won both of those. And then round 14 he played versus Turtonator, which is another fire deck, and so he lost the first one, won the second one, and lost the last one. So that is if they run well enough, the fire deck, you usually lose to them, but if you can get a toad going and lock them, especially if you like hit heads on a laser and they flip tails and you have toad and you take like a free 2 prizes there, you're in pretty good shape. But unfortunately, he lost to both his fire matchups. So those are his matchups for the day. So he said he had 20 wins and 9 losses for his day. So the way my day went, of course, was different. So round 1, I played against someone playing, what was it, Marshadow. So she was playing Marshadow box, and apparently Karen is pretty good there. So I beat her 2-0. Golisopod just knocks out Marshadow so easily. You just need Choice Band, bring it active, 150. She was playing Choice Band. She wasn't playing Fighting Fury Belt, so that made the matchup so much easier. Round 2, I played against John Kettler. And funny thing about this is that me and Kettler played like the night before, and he played against my deck. So he was playing like this really cool deck. I don't know if he's public with this. I don't necessarily want to reveal it, but I thought this was the deck he was going to be playing. So I had beat him online, and so I was pretty confident. I was like, okay, well, if he's playing the same deck he played before, I know what it can do. I know what the strategy is. I think I can beat it. So on this day, he goes first. I go first, and he starts Eevee, and I'm like, Eevee. So I'm assuming it's Espeon, but not thinking that Eevee could be literally. It could be Sylveon. It could be in the Vespiquen deck. I don't know. So he starts Eevee, but I know the deck he was playing before was playing Psychic. So I was like, maybe he added Eevee to it. So I played my first turn in the events of thinking that it's going to be an Espeon. And then it turns out that it's Umbreon. So he's playing a dark deck. So he's playing Zoroark with Eevees. And so we're playing game one, and then he puts the Flareon down on me, and I'm like, oh, yeah, that is a card, right? So because I didn't really know how to play against the deck, I ended up getting beat pretty bad game 1. So going into game 2, we're playing. At a certain point, he has an Umbreon with, I want to say it has 120 damage on it. Or was it? No, it had 6 damage on it. I had a Rangaroo, and a Rangaroo was about to attack it. And so I was looking at, and I was like, I'm doing 120 to you. Is that a knockout? And he was like, no, not quite. And so I was like, oh, okay. And then so I looked at my hand, and I was like, oh, well, I have a Choice Band. And I attached the Choice Band, and I knocked out the Umbreon that way. However, I felt pretty bad because I kind of questioned. I was like, I'm doing 120, is that a knockout? Because we were being very cordial with each other. And my math is, I teach English. I'm an English teacher. I don't teach math. So, I have some blunders with math sometimes. So I felt bad. I ended up beating him that game, but I felt bad about that whole situation. So I ended up scooping to him and giving him the win for that. So I was 1-1. And then next round, I played against someone. No, Was I 1-1 at that point? Yeah, I was 1-1 at that point. Next round, I played against Turbo Dark. Again, I just used Seismitoad. Game 1, she did take a game on me because one game I went Quaking Punch and she went Pokemon Ranger, Laser, Dead End. And I was like, Ranger? Who is playing Ranger in this deck? So, she did end up taking that game. But the other 2 games, I beat her pretty swiftly. She kind of, I locked her in with Seismitoad and just cleaned up with Golisopod. So at that point, I was 2-1. And then so the next 2 rounds, I tied. One round, I played against Garbodor. The first one, it was against, what was he? Yeah. Was it? Yeah, okay, so the first one, it was against Garbodor. So I was playing against Garbodor and Necrozma. Game 1, I completely drew dead. I should have scooped earlier. I didn't get anything going. I had played too many items, and he beat me. Game 2, Seismitoad locked him out for the first half of the game. He couldn't really get going, and then I just swept with Golisopod. Game 3, I was locking him down with Seismitoad. When time was called, he had a dead hand. He looked at the top card and he was like, oh, I was going to scoop to you, but it's Lele, so I think I could have came back in that game or, put up a fight. And I was like, okay, no, it's fine. I don't look for scoops or anything like that. And it was still early. I could have took a tie. I was like, okay, that's fine, whatever. So I tied with him. But it made me feel good knowing that I probably was going to win that game. So, it still gave me confidence in the deck. And then so the next round, I played against this guy playing Gardevoir. And so game 1, I was locking him with Seismitoad, but the problem with Gardevoir is Sylveon. Sylveon kind of makes it tough because Sylveon allows them to still get set up. So I didn't have any lasers on it, couldn't find them. My Seismitoad didn't have Choice Band, so it was taking me a very long time to knock out this Sylveon. And by the time I could knock it out, he had everything. He had a Gardevoir set up, and once they get a Gardevoir set up, it's just very hard to beat that deck with our deck. So your game plan against Gardevoir is Quaking Punch them until, take the most prizes you can with Quaking Punch. Try to prevent them from setting up a Gardevoir. Once they get the Gardevoir up, either go for some Lele prizes or something like that. So game 2, that's what happened. That's what I did again. I Quaking Punched him. This time I had answers for the Sylveon to get it out of there quicker. What happened is this game, though, God. So he goes and he uses Tapu Lele to search for Acerola to pick up his Tapu Lele. So he goes, no, he doesn't search for Acerola. No, he plays Acerola, picks up his Tapu Lele, promotes a Rocks, plays back down the Tapu Lele, and goes and gets a Chorus. So meanwhile, he's already played the Acerola, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, yes, he's played Acerola because he's not ending me, he's not putting any more pressure on the board, he's not going through his deck, he's not going to evolve anything. I already know, he's had this hand since last turn, so no Curliers are coming down, so I'm pretty excited. As soon as he puts the Lele down, he goes and gets the Chorus, and as soon as he gets the Chorus, he's like, I'm going to play it. And then so as soon as he plays it, I didn't even have any time to say anything. He grabs his hand, he puts it in his deck, and as soon as he grabs his hand, I'm like, wait, stop. I wasn't going to be one of those players that allows their opponent to shuffle their hand into their deck. But I know he had at least put it there, and he started to go like this, but I think he stopped. And so we called the judge over, and the judge was like, well, we knew DCE was in his hand because the Acerola and Lele had a DCE. And I was like, I think he put his hand on the bottom. And so we sat there for about 4 minutes trying to figure out how many cards he had in his hand because I didn't know at that point. And so I said, well, I know DCE. So the judge said, well, DCE is 6 cards from the bottom. And so they were like, well, we'll put 6 cards back in his hand. And at that point, I was just kind of like, okay, listen, I don't want to take another L because at that point, I'm just out. So I ended up winning that game because, again, the strategy worked with Seismitoad. Game 3, time is called when I take a knockout with Golisopod on his lone Sylveon, and he had 1 Ralts on the bench. So it's safe to say I probably would have won that game. I was just in such a dominating position, but we just didn't get to finish. So again, I felt good because I was like, okay, well, game 3, I could have got him. So at that point, I'm 2-1-2, so I have to win the next 4, which, spoiler alert, of course I did. Yay. But anyways, so the next round, I play against another guy playing Garbodor, Necrozma. This game was just a hot mess. Let me tell you. He was making misplays. I made one big misplay. So basically, again, what I did was didn't put anything in my discard pile, just Toad locked him, and it becomes awkward for that deck. When you just keep locking them with Toad. So I won a very long game 1. Game 2, he almost had me there at the end because I just need to draw a Guzma, but I was so far ahead. I think he had 5 prizes left, and I was so far ahead, but it didn't finish on time. That game I also attacked with Oranguru into Necrozma, forgetting that Necrozma stops Oranguru. Yeah, I did that. But yeah, game 2 didn't finish, so I ended up winning that game. Probably was going to win game 2, though, given 1 or more extra turns. Next round, I play against, at that point, I'm 3-1-2. Next round, I play against a dude playing Night March. So, game 1, I just keep using Karen. I don't even have Toad out. I'm just Karening. There was, one point where I had no cards in my hand. I attacked, knocked out his Joltik with Tapu Lele. I Karen and knocked out his Joltik with Tapu Lele and was like, if he knocks out this Tapu Lele, I'm just done. But the fact that I just kept using Karen 4 turns in a row, he just couldn't recover from that. And I don't think, I think he was playing it to the best of his ability. Let me put it that way. So I won game 1. It came down very close. And then game 2, what ended up happening is I went to search for Pokemon Fan Club. And so I could use Toad on the second turn. So when I was going through my deck, Fan Club was prized. So I said to myself, I was kind of like, oh, jeez. So, I was going through and I kept looking at it because I was like, I can't believe this Fan Club is prized. So what ended up happening is we played out the game, and then I Karened mid-game. And I don't know if he thought that when I was going through on the first turn, I was looking for Karen. That wasn't the optimal play, but maybe that's why he went through his resources way too fast. He was sycamoring, he was getting rid of stuff, he just kept going through, and he didn't wait for me to play the Karen, and it was kind of unnecessary. So once I used Karen in game, it was pretty devastating on him. So at the end of the game, he sycamored, he only had 1 DCE left, he drew 7, and the DCE was the was the one here. But even then, he wasn't taking the last prize with that attack he would have made. So I ended up winning 2 rounds. I played against Fire. Really, really nice guy. Oh my gosh, this is probably my favorite match of the day. Cool dude from, I think he said he's from Miami. So we played, and basically the way this went was, as I was saying, sorry about that, Quaking Punch, Laser. He couldn't do really much of anything game 1, so I took 2 prizes with the Toad. Once he was able to knock out the Toad, Golisopod just came up, Laser Bank for the game. Game 2, same situation, however, he made a misplay, and I felt so bad about this. He Ultra Balled away, so Turtonator had 3 energy on it. He Ultra Balled away an energy to go get the Volcanion or to go get a Pokemon. I think it was the Volcanion so he could steam up, but he Ultra Balled away with the Fire Energy and kept Sycamore in his hand so he wouldn't go down to 0 cards in hand. Albeit, I mean, he was going to take 2 prizes if he took the knockout. So because he got rid of the Fire Energy, he didn't have anything to steam up to hit the one to use for Turtonator to be able to knock out my Seismitoad. So he hits me for 160. I go in Acerola to Seismitoad, pick it up, put it back down, and at that point, he really couldn't come back from that. So I felt so bad about it, but I beat him 2-0. And then finally, last round, I played against Charlie Kerr, and he was playing Garbodor Necrozma. And again, my strategy against Garbodor Necrozma is just Quaking Punch. That's how game 1 and game 2 went. I do think that game 1 he didn't apply pressure with Lele when he could have early enough, but it kind of, those games kind of went too well because the thing about that deck is just doesn't do enough. Like, I don't ever evolve the Golisopod. I just keep the Garbodor, and then I'll have a Lele. And then once they use Necrozma, it's kind of like, okay, Necrozma has done its thing. What are you going to do? 70 to 10 damage now? And then so I would just Acerola the Seismitoad, put it back down, and then just continue to Quaking Punch. And I don't know if he played the Drampa. I think that they played Drampa. It's a little harder for me, maybe. But I don't think he played the Drampa. And then so game 2, he used Mimikyu. But he used it a little too late. Because, I mean, game 1, I was looking at Mimikyu. I was like, why don't you Quaking Punch me with Mimikyu? So game 2, I think he used it a little too late. And, again, it was the same situation. I just Quaking Punched him, Quaking Punched him, Quaking Punched him. He couldn't play his items. He was just in awkward situations. And then I won those 2 games 2-0. So I ended up 6-1-2. But because I came back from 2-1-2, my record just didn't end up being as well as it... my resistance wasn't as well as it should have been. But I still ended with a record that could have made top cut. So I was very happy with the deck, and I got my points. So what do you guys think of the deck? I really, really like it. I'll probably continue playing it and expand it. I don't think it has any, if Garbodor Necrozma gets pretty popular, I think that this deck is very well positioned. And if Garbodor Necrozma gets pretty popular, I think the decks that this loses to will see a lot less play. So the things that this deck has a hard time against, such as such as Fire, Turbo Dark, which is a stressful matchup. I think those decks will be played a lot less. Again, like I said, Night March is winnable. As far as Trevenant, I'm pretty good with this deck online, and I think my record with this deck online is pretty good. Let me see what I have. I'll just discard those changes. I don't know. I think, where am I? Where are we at? Pretty Poison. Alright, so overall wins is 22. And then if I look down, overall played is 27. So the deck is 22-5, which I think is pretty good, right? I mean, 22-5. And then most of those games I lost, though, were in testing with, like, Daniel and Coolest, the people I test with. So pretty much, against the random field, I pretty much don't lose. But when I'm playing those intensive games, I can lose sometimes. But in those games, we're helping each other out. So the deck that should win usually wins those games. So yeah, that is the deck. It is Golisopod, Garbodor. No, I said Garbodor. Oh my god, I'm tired. It is Golisopod, Seismitoad. Seismitoad is still an amazing card. I don't know why they ever printed it. So Quaking Punch is just so good. And turn 2 Quaking Punch can still just flat out win you games as it did for me so many times during the tournament. So I want you guys to try it out. I'll be playing some more games with it later this week. And please subscribe if you enjoy the content. See you guys later. Bye.